Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming in back at you with another Wargaming in miniature. And what we're going to do today is the Spartan Destroid right here. And in the Spartan Destroid, we've got a couple that we got one that's going to be made with its missile bays closed, and another one with its missile bays open. They're both going to get the GU-11 autocannon because you can either equip it with it or without it, and I've decided to spend the points and equip it with it. Well, here's one that I've already finished. This is one with the pods closed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make one with the pods opened. I've already cut out all the pieces. I've already snipped them with the spruce snips. I've also gone over them with the X-Acto knife and trimmed them. So they're all going to fit together nice and well. Now this model doesn't really have that many parts to it, so it should be a fairly simple and quick assembly. There are a couple of small pieces, so be sure to keep track of those. Let's push those off to the side so I can work. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start putting some legs together. Now you'll notice on the Spartan the feet are different than all the other Destroids. It actually has like a large high heel and a very elongated front foot, and it has the pin and holes, and one half of the leg is from top to bottom, and then the other half is only from the knee down. So basically you just put a bead of glue around the outside edge, and then you press and hold it together for a good 20-30 seconds. And then you just push these off to the side once you get your legs done. Yeah, what I was kind of noticing was there was a square hip joint. This is a little different than the other ones also. The other ones all have like these very small round holes on the legs, and then the hips have these little pins that stick into those holes. Where on this one, the legs actually have square pegs that go into the hip joint, and it makes positioning the model a lot easier. Now what we're going to do is we're going to deal with the I don't know, missile pods, or are we going to deal with the legs? Yeah, we're going to deal with the missile pods first. And the missile pods have two halves, and so it's like one row of missiles, and then you got to glue the second row of missiles to the pod to make it as a double row. It only goes on one way, and remember that when you glue it on, you got to make sure that the arms have their hole so that you can, once you glue the pod to the shoulder, you're going to have the piece that goes into the shoulder of the center torso, and then you're also going to have on the outside edge, you're going to have the big hole or big, yeah, I can't show you, see it right there, the big hole where the arm actually goes into. So you just have to be careful which one you're putting where. When it snaps in, you have to kind of line it up because it can be shifted. But so you have to kind of line up the edges of the missile pod so it looks, so basically it disguises the gap between the two halves, because they don't line up on their own. There's no pins, or there's only one pin, I think, and see how it's separated there? You just have to align it by hand, and then once it lines up, then just hold it for a good 20 or 30 seconds so that it'll dry, and then it'll make the lines disappear. Okay, now they got both of those done. what we're going to do is we're going to see the right arm is straight, and what on my other model the elbow is bent, because it comes with a variety of different arms that you can use, and on this model I've decided I was going to use the straight arm. And but the straight arm is technically not built for the GU11, so but it will fit there, and it'll look good. It's just not specifically built for that. So what you do is you got to find a spot where the gun will fit. The forward trigger housing will fit in your hand, and the back of the gun's shoulder stock will actually go past your elbow. I just applied some glue along the top edge of the forearm so that when you glue the gun down, it just glues straight to the forearm. Here, take a look. Come on, zoom. I mean, focus. And there you go. Just like so. Set that down to dry. That's opposed to the left arm, which is like in 3 pieces. You've got the upper arm, which goes into the torso, which is what I'm holding right here. You got that disc right there that goes into the torso, and it ends in a flat piece. And then you've got a Popeye forearm, which is like this giant box that goes on to the end of your upper arm. And then your hand is just barely a box that just glues onto the, oh, you don't need to see it, but it just glues onto the Popeye forearm. Now what I'm planning on doing with the left arm is I'm going to have it raised. So what I want to do is turn the forearm so that it's not flat or flush. It's kind of turned there. See, I twisted it right there about 30 to 40 degrees. And I'm going to set that off to let that part dry. We'll glue the hand on later. Okay, now on the back side of the missile pod, there's a little bump, and that actually is where the missile exhaust actually goes. You put that right there, and it's a little piece where I guess when the missiles fire, the exhaust flies out the back. Okay, we've got both of those put together. Now we're going to go ahead and put this hip together. This hip is different than all the other hips for the UEDF so far. This hip is very pear-shaped. But it's okay. It's just unique. It has a large square on the top, and it also has 2 smaller squares, holes on the left and right, where the leg joints would actually fit straight into those squares. So and that goes where the torso goes. That's the torso, and you can see there's this large square pin at the bottom that actually goes into the top of your hip in that square. All you gotta do is apply a little glue. And it'll go right on in. Just make sure which side is the front before you glue. Set that off to the side. There you go. Well, before we do that, you can kind of see the square joints for the legs, and you can see how it fits to the bottom of the torso. Now the missile pods are your left and right torsos, and they go in these little holes on each side. And what we'll do is we'll put one torso on at a time. Remember, the missiles fire to the front and the arms are on the outside. And so we just hold on to it for a good few seconds, and then we do both, line them up the way they're supposed to, squeeze for 20 to 30 seconds. Now that's the hand. That hand goes on the end of the arm, and we just apply a little glue, And these both should be completely flat so that they just fit together perfect. And you have to remember where the thumb is on your hand and how, because it's your left hand and your thumb needs to be positioned in a way where it's on the top of your forearm. And can you see that? There you go. Let me just set that down. Okay, we let everything dry and we come back to the base. Now remember, with most of the models, you can actually glue the legs onto the base and then onto the torso. I've tried on this one because of the square pegs. It seemed like I should be able to glue it directly to the hip first and then put it on the base, but you get two hips. One actually has holes, and this one just has cavities. And with the cavities, it doesn't want to stay on to the hip. So I'm going to do it just like I've been doing all my other models, and is that I'll glue the feet directly to the base, and then I will put the hip onto the legs after while it's still drying, so that you can shuffle and shift around any of the legs or hips that you need to do. Now put some glue in those cavities. Yeah, you see that? There we go, and right there. And then we just lay it down onto the legs, which I might have put a little too far apart, but we'll give it a shot. I'll just have to squeeze the top into the hip, and bam, it glues in and it fits in nice. Okay, now we set that and let that dry, because the hip joint is probably your most crucial joint when it comes to the weight of the top of your model toppling over your miniature. So let the hips dry before you move on to doing the arms. So then we do the arms, and you apply pressure to the other side of the torso when you try to slide these arms in, because they're a little snug, which is good because it'll hold it in place even better. There we go. And I've got the gun down, like he's not in a firing position, he's just kind of chilling. And then on the other arm, the left arm, the one that we had to assemble, it does the same thing. It just goes right on into the arm socket right there, which is this giant circle. And I wanted him to be raising his arm so that he could like either be signaling or cursing or something at his opponent or his friends, but it's basically a raised arm. And I wanted it to be a little more animated, you know, a little different than just standing there, you know, like an idiot. It looks like he's actually got some activity going on that model. All right, and there's only one other thing to do, and that's to add the air defense laser that goes on the top head. There's like this little pin in the back with a U-joint. It's very small. So what I do is I place a drop of glue back there, and then we'll put looks like a spotlight with lasers attached. That's kind of what it looks like. So let's put the glue on there, and I put a little excessive glue back there because it's such a small joint. I wanted it to be able to hold it in place better, so I have to hold it for a few seconds before it'll actually lock into place. And you got to even it up, balance it out, tilt it left and right until it actually sits directly in that little groove. And you wait the 20 or 30 seconds for it to dry. And then it should be done. And that model is finished. It still needs to dry, of course, but this is it compared to the other one I've already done. And I'm going to pull out some other Destroids so you can kind of see the comparison. And it looks like his hand's flipping somebody off. I probably should have turned a little bit. There's a phalanx compared to the Spartan. Tomahawk. It all fits into the genre right there. Now let's show the next to a Glog. Yeah, there's the Glog officer pod. And here's a close-up view of it, so you can kind of see what it looks like up close. And remember, the sprue imperfections will disappear. Those are just scrapes and the discoloration of the plastic. But once you prime it and paint it, those little discolorations will disappear because they are flat. All right, well, thanks for coming out and checking out this video. This was another episode of Wargaming in Miniature. I look forward to getting the rest of my models put together and putting it on the table. So I'll see you next time.